Hello and welcome to Upstack America's Oracle EBS Financials Functional Training. My name is Bob and I'm the lead senior consultant for Upstack America. And with me today I have Victor, who is also a senior consultant. And today we are handling lesson 21 of the receivables module. And Victor, please walk us through.
Uh, Thank you, Bob, for the introduction, and welcome everybody to this lesson in our Financials Functional Training series. In this lesson, we are going to talk about TCA, which is short for Trading Community Architecture. We are going to introduce the concept. Now that we are familiar with payables and receivables, we can talk about TCA. So what is a TCA, Trading Community Architecture? Trading Community Architecture is it's an improvement, and that Oracle introduced a data model, and what it does is that it helps Oracle applications users to better manage information about parties in the commercial community. Okay, so Trading Community Architecture is an improvement on how this information is stored in Oracle databases. Okay, so even before we start, I would like us to have in the back of our minds that TCA is not something that you experience, the user will experience when they are using the system. So it's not like an example. It's not like something like a receipt that I will go and show you that this is a TCA. Rather, it's an improvement in how data information is stored in the back end. Okay. So the commercial community, these are the parties that an enterprise will interact with, trading partners. Okay. So you'll have suppliers, you'll have customers, you'll have banks. Okay. And the enterprise will enter into different kinds of relationships with these entities. Now, as we know it, and before TCA was actually introduced, this is how the information about these parties was managed. Okay, so information about suppliers will belong to AP. Information about customers will be owned by AR, and information about banks will be owned by what? Cash management. So before the introduction of Trading Community Architecture, this new way of storing data, this is how the information was stored, which made the applications a bit inefficient, because in the real world, this is not how sometimes it will play out. For example, we have seen the situation whereby we'll have a customer being also a supplier for an enterprise. So you can see where we're heading, whereby we might want to have a setup whereby this information can be shared or cross-referenced or stored in a single place, such that it becomes easier to manage. So with the introduction of the TCA model, this is what happens on a high level. For TCA now, we have information about these parties in the commercial community being stored at a central point, what is called the TCA registry. Okay. So information about suppliers, banks, and customers is stored at a central location. Put suppliers and banks in different color because we're going to mention how they're from customers. So the way the TCA model is created is that in the registry, this information is stored in terms of entities. And these entities will have their own tables, okay, where the information is stored. So these are the entities in the TCA. We'll have parties, we'll have party sites, we'll have customers, customer accounts, customer account sites, contacts, contact points, and locations. So we can explain what each of these are. A party can be, let's say, a person or an organization with which you can enter into a relationship, okay? So maybe we can think of one of the parties in our setup. We can think of a Realmart stores. That's a party, okay? So we enter into a relationship with these parties, and it could be also an individual. Party sites are locations which are used by a party for a specific purpose, okay? What about customers? We know customers. A customer is a party with whom we have entered into a selling relationship with. Customer account defines the terms of the relationship with the customer. So you can have different customer accounts with a single customer depending on the relationship defined in those accounts. Customer account site, it is a party site which is used in terms of reference to an account, okay? So an account will have its own site, and that site may be different from other sites owned by the same party. Contacts, you can have contacts for a party, okay? So maybe individuals who are a contact for a certain organization. You can have an individual who is a contact for another individual who is associated with a party, okay? And contact points are how information or how you can contact these contacts. For example, is it by email, by phone, all right? Locations is just what we can say a geospatial feature that is usually defined by an address. So you can think of a location just as an address. So those are just short definitions of each of these entities, which is how information is stored in the TCA. So what happens is that in different applications such as AP and even AR, okay, you will have fields or windows whereby when you enter information that is related to these entities, then that information will be stored in the TCA. What do I mean? I mean that, for example, you can go and change the address for a customer, and that customer also happens to be a supplier. So if you go and change that address belonging to that customer, it will go and maybe affect information about that particular party. We can think of that customer as a party, and that party has related information such as the address. Okay, so instead of having to go to AP and changing the address, then going to AR and changing the address, now the way the TCA model works is that if that field points to the same information, you just have to change that information once. So if I change the information in AR for that party as a customer, then the address will be updated even for the people who are using AP. So you can see how this TCA model makes data management much simpler. So the reason why I put suppliers and banks in red is because there is still information relating to these suppliers and banks that is stored in AP and cash management respectively. So for customers, all the information was moved to the TCA, okay? But for suppliers and banks, there's still information that is stored outside the TCA registry. So, for example, you can have a party who is a customer and who is also a supplier, okay? So the information for that party as a customer will be stored in the registry. However, some supply information specifically relating to the account or the nature of the relationship that you have with that supplier will still be stored in AP. Perhaps a better example to use is a bank, okay? So if you enter into a banking relationship with a bank and then you become a customer for that bank, there will be information such as bank accounts involved. That information is account specific. It determines the nature of the relationship that you have with that bank. But there's other information about the bank, let's say about the address of the headquarters, okay? Or maybe the name of the CEO in terms of contacts. That is, we can think of it as global information, which will be updated in the registry for anybody to see. However, information that is specific to account relationships is still stored in AP and CE and cash management. However, as I have said, for customers, all the information was moved into TCA in this new model. So what are the advantages of trading community architecture? As I have said, easy management. Instead of logging into AP to change an address, then having to go to log into AR to change address for the same party, if you change it from AP, then it is updated in the registry, and then you don't have to go to different, let's say, responsibilities to do that. And it also reduces the duplication of information if the information is being stored at a central location. Another good advantage is that TCA also introduces a conceptual functionality called relationships that allows you to define different relationships between parties. An example is one party could be what? A subsidiary of the other, or it could be an affiliate of the other. It could be a parent of another party, or you could have somebody who is an employee of a certain organization. So with this new TCA model and these entities or these parties information being stored in the same location, you have this ability to introduce this relationship concept. You're able to define the relationships between different parties. And of course, there is the ability to cross-reference. Where can this come in handy? Maybe in the case we have talked about where you have a party being both a customer and a supplier. So maybe this party, you owe them some money and they also owe you some money. But since the information is segregated without the TCA, in the case whereby we merge it without the TCA model, we might be unable to establish this relationship. Okay. So when you have this TCA model, you are able to see that this is the same party where we have maybe they owe us and we owe them, and we are able to settle accounts. That's you can think of it as an advantage that way. So again, just to emphasize, TCA is not a feature that like you implement and the user experiences it as they go on their day-to-day interactions with the system. The user will continue entering this information in the same way, but it's just how it's stored that is different in the world of trading community architecture. Of course, Oracle has provided you with the ability to access TCA directly. You can assign yourself responsibilities that allow you to access the TCA registry directly and enrich information. But again, like we have said, this is information which will also be updated through other fields in different applications such as AR and AP. So that was just a short discussion on TCA. An important feature which you need to understand as a consultant. And as you have seen, it's not very complicated, but rather it's a very good improvement introduced by Oracle in terms of how information is stored. So anyway, unless you have something to add, Bob, we can.
All right. Thank you so much, Victor.
Thank you.